Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. I want to talk a little bit about the rules or the possible rules for Scream 7. Now there's obviously going to be spoilers in this because I will be talking about, well, a little bit about Scream 6 because the rules are always evolving like I've mentioned before. If you look back to Scream 3 with the rules of a trilogy, this is the original trilogy with Randy talking. He's mentioning that the past will come back to bite you. You know the rules, you've seen it all time and time again. I personally think that those rules will be taken into account for Scream 7. Now you might be thinking, well, Scream 7 is not part of a trilogy. Well, it is really, because you've got Scream 1, 2 and 3, which was a trilogy. Scream 4, which bridged the gap between the next trilogy and the previous trilogy. So Scream 5, 6 and 7 is its own trilogy. It's Radio Silence's trilogy. So if you look at it that way, Scream 7 will be the finale of a mini trilogy. So with the rules of Scream 7, I think the stakes will be higher. I think the rules will be more truer to the movie than the previous films as well. For example, the rules in Scream 5 and 6 were just rules in movies, but they didn't actually happen in those films. Whereas Scream 7, similar to what happened in Scream 3, I think the rules, if they are mentioned to us, will be more true to the storyline itself. How true will they be? Well, if you look back in the movies and the new trilogy, you get Sam and Tara who have a bit of a backstory that we don't know yet. We don't know their involvement with their mother. We don't know who Tara's dad is either. We obviously know Sam's dad. So when you look at the rules of the original trilogy, the past will come back to bite you in the bum or whatever. Looking at that, yes, that could be Billy and his involvement with Sam maybe becoming crazy because of her dad. That could be as far as they go with that, but they could explore it a little bit more. If they want this to be the end of Radio Silence's trilogy, they could go out with a bang and go deeper in to the original movies. They could even go back to events of certain scenes, certain crimes in Scream 1 and show us a different angle for Scream 7. Now, I'm not saying this will happen and I'm not saying this should happen, but they could go back to, let's say, this is just an example guys, Sam's mum and Tara's mum, Christine. She obviously had some sort of an affair with Billy Loomis, and that's how Sam was born. Christine could have more of an involvement than meets the eye. So maybe she was involved with Billy, maybe she knew what Billy and Stu were doing, or at least Billy himself, at least she knew what Billy was doing. Maybe she was wanting to help Billy get back at Sydney, get back at someone, anyone. Maybe they'll go back to the events of Steve and Casey, the first kills in the ghostface costumes of them dying. Maybe Stu wasn't there to help Billy, maybe it was Christine that was there to help Billy. It would be quite cool if they reenact that scene, similar to what they've done in Halloween Kills with Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers. Could you imagine they went back to the events of 1996 with Casey and Steve and seeing Billy, because we know that they're going to superimpose Billy anyway, seeing Billy putting on the costume to kill Casey and Steve, but maybe Christine is the one on the phone, maybe Christine is tying Steve up. How crazy would that be? The involvement of Christine being the helper of the original kills, of the Ghostface killers, not the original killings. Obviously that was Maureen that was killed first, but the original Ghostface killings, Christine could be part of that, and that's the past coming back to bite you. It could be anything like that. Maybe Tara's dad could have an involvement. I know that we don't want too much of the family dynamic in there because it's going to end up like a Fast and the Furious movie, but if you want to really shock us, don't just shock us with the killers that are getting revealed in Scream 7, shock us with maybe something that happened in the past that involves current characters. That would give those current characters more stake, more involvement in the movie, and an eventual lead up to a finale that could and should be epic. That's just one of many ideas you could implement when it comes to the past coming back on you. But there are other rules in the trilogy, anyone can die, etc. But I think that will be true in this one more so than Scream 6, because obviously, like we said, the rules in Scream 6 were very loose because nobody died or nobody significant died. So when you look at the rules in Scream 7, if they say people are going to die, I genuinely think people will die in that film. There will be a lot of cannon fodder. I think Gail will die if she comes back. I'm sure at least one or two of the core four will die if they all come back. So there's so many opportunities to shock the audience, but shock us in a good way. Don't shock us in a way that we're like, okay, I didn't see that coming, but you're giving us that shock because we weren't expecting it. You need to write it perfectly. That's why I miss Kevin Williamson, because the writing that he done for the original movies was perfect. So if you give us smart writing as well as the shocks, I'm sure we'll all be pleasantly surprised. So what are your thoughts on that, guys? Remember, my example of Casey and Steve and Christine is just an extreme example, although that would be pretty cool, to be honest. But let me know some examples from you. What do you think they could do to shock the audience, to bring it back to what possibly happened in the past? Could they change things? Should they change things? Leave your comments down below, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
To get you, Barbara.
Ever played in the cat?
Someone's in the